Oh, and then I just need to make sure I'm sharing. Okay, well, welcome everybody to the College2Career Fair's virtual college exploration for California students. Just a few housekeeping items before I turn it over to our presenters today, and they'll introduce themselves. If you have any questions, go ahead and use the Q&A button to type your questions to the presenters at any time. Your camera and your microphone are off. You're muted, your video is off, so the panelists can't see you or hear you, but definitely if you have any questions, use that Q&A. Please feel free to sign up for more sessions. This is just one of many of the presentations offered this week. So you can check out the schedule at the website listed here, college2careerfairsconnect.org, and a recording will be available at the college2careerfairsconnect.org website. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing and then turn it over.
All right, hi everybody. My name is Marcus Brown. I'm from the University of Alaska in Anchorage. I work there as the student advisor for the aviation programs, and I'm gonna start by telling you just a little bit about Alaska because I know most people here are probably not from Alaska. And then I'll just dive right into the programs and we can talk about it. So let me get my presentation fired up here and we'll get going. All right, again, my name is Marcus Brown, University of Alaska Anchorage, also known as UAA. UAA is what we sometimes call a full-service aviation school, meaning we've got programs in most of the major aviation careers you might think of. That would be professional piloting, aviation maintenance, aviation management, and air traffic control. Aviation is a very important thing in Alaska, and actually I could show you why. Alaska is big. You can see here on this map, if you stretch it from left to right, it spans pretty much the same length as the contiguous 48 states. Obviously, the landmass itself is not that big, but the landmass.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm not sure if your screen is sharing.
Is it not? Okay. Hold on. I'm sure we can fix that.
There we go. Yep.
Haha. Thanks for letting me know.
No problem.
All right. Well, now that everybody can see it, here's the visual I wanted to give you. Like I was saying, Alaska stretches from left to right about as far as the contiguous 48 states go. So very, very large landmass. And it surprises a lot of people to find out, like, most of Alaska, most places in Alaska, you can't actually drive to. So again, aviation is very important to us. I have another slide right after this, can kind of give you an idea. If you look at this map, this is a route map for one of the major airlines here. Shows a whole bunch of different places you can fly to. It's a little blurry, sorry for that. But just to give you an idea, I'll show you the places that you can fly to, or I'm sorry, can drive to, which are Homer, Kenai, Anchorage, Fairbanks, Prudhoe Bay. Randomly, this place over here, which is called Tok, and this place over here, which is called Skagway. And that's it, at least on this map. So definitely have a lot of need for aviation here. And just to talk for a second about Anchorage, because that's where the college is, that's here in the middle of the state at the bottom. It's the big city, in quotation marks, in Alaska with about 300,000 people in it. Very beautiful place to live. We've got a mountain range just outside of town. You can see it on the east side of town pretty much anytime the weather's good, and there's lots of good hikes and fun things to do outside within about a 15-20 minute drive. But with that said, I'm going to dive right into the programs that we have to offer. Again, that's professional piloting, aviation maintenance, aviation management, and air traffic control. And I'm going to start with piloting, both because it's really cool and there's some neat opportunities, and because it's what I know best personally. So let's talk about that for a minute. We have 2-degree programs in professional piloting, an associate's and a bachelor's. I'm going to focus primarily on the bachelor's because it's what most students do. In either case, though, students will do the same flight training, whether they're in the associates or the bachelor's. So you start with a private pilot license, and then you move on to instrument, and then commercial, and then multi-engine. And then most students also do a course called Certified Flight Instructor Training, which is where you learn to be a flight instructor. That one is optional, but again, most students do it. And if we have enough time, maybe I can get into why that is. Usually to get through the flying of the program, students will take about 3 years, possibly a little bit more on rare occasions, sometimes a little less too. 3 years is a good target because especially if you're a bachelor's student, that would allow you to work as a flight instructor during your senior year. Get a chance to build some experience, make a little bit of money on the side, and instruct the younger students as they come on. We really like hiring our own students to teach for us. It's highly beneficial to you because you can get some experience from it, and it's also beneficial to us because you already understand our program, our teaching style, our airplanes, our procedures, our safety practices, and you probably know some of the younger students coming up too, so having student teachers is a great way to develop camaraderie amongst the students in the program. And it's not a super big program, so the student body really does get close with each other. Something you may want to know about flight programs is that when you get out of college, you're not necessarily going to go to work for an airline right away. And certainly, like, nobody goes right from college to Delta Airlines or one of the major airlines. So the way this works is you get out of college, you're rated and certified with all the things you need, or at least most of them. And then your first job is typically, again, working as a flight instructor. That's how most people build their initial experience. And they do that for a year or two, sometimes 3, depending on how many jobs there are out there at any given time. Another option to build your initial experience would be to fly for a charter company or a tour company. And that would typically last, again, for 1 to 3 years before you had the flight experience that you needed to go to work for a mid-sized regional airline, which is like your SkyWest. That would be like Horizon Airlines, Envoy, Eagle. Those are all mid-sized regional airlines. Once you've spent a few years at those, that's when you would have the opportunity to move into the major airlines like Delta, UPS, FedEx, Alaska Airlines, Southwest. All those are very coveted jobs, and they're really good jobs. And most people who are going to college programs really have those in mind. That's their target. And just to end, before we move on to the next program I want to share with you, just a thought for those people who do want to be pilots. If those coveted jobs with UPS, FedEx, Delta, whichever major airline you might have in mind are really your goal, just make sure while you're on your way there not to race there. Have a lot of fun on your way to get there. Be a flight instructor and enjoy that, and enjoy the mid-sized regionals, and push hard for your goal to get to the major airlines one day, but don't forget to have lots of fun on the way. Okay, so I'm going to move on now to aviation maintenance, which is another really cool program, especially if you like airplanes and you like to work with your hands like I do. To become an aircraft mechanic, typically you need to get FAA ratings in airframe and in power plant. Those two, airframe and power plant, almost always go together. So airplane mechanics are often referred to as A&Ps. There are 3 ways to become an A&P mechanic. You can build experience with the military and take a test to get your civilian A&P credentials. You can also work as a mechanics assistant for a licensed A&P in an aviation maintenance shop, and that'll typically take you about 3 to 5 years before you can test for your own credentials. Or you can complete the college a college program like the one we have, and our program takes about 2.5 years. 2 years, 2.5 years is pretty normal. Some are fast track and they'll go a little bit faster than that too. There's definitely advantages and disadvantages to each different method of becoming an A&P. People who train through the military often focus exclusively on a very specific piece of the maintenance process, which can make it difficult to pass the civilian test, which tests your knowledge on a wide variety of skills. You really have to know the whole airplane. Mechanic's assistant route is good too, and definitely has the advantage of being able to earn a wage while you're building your skill. But the downside to that is that the wage is typically pretty low. And as I understand it, people who train in that way don't develop the depth of understanding that you would get at a college program. That doesn't mean that they're bad mechanics. It just means that they're missing out on some stuff that maybe they would otherwise get if they did a formal training program. So for that reason, I think it's really worth considering a college program, and UAS is a really good one. We have a very thorough program, and our students go to the FAA certification exams with a lot of confidence. That's not to say that there won't be plenty of opportunities to learn throughout your career, but you'll be starting your career with a really great foundation of knowledge. And from what I'm told, employers in our local area, well, they know it. I've been doing this job for a couple of years now, and I've definitely noticed that our aviation maintenance graduates don't seem to have any trouble finding work. Starting wage for the maintenance grads tends to be between $23 and $28 an hour, and within a few years, you'd be likely to be able to make over 30. So in relationship to the investment of time and of money that you put into a program like this one, you'd really be doing pretty well. So moving on to our third program, which is Aviation Maintenance. It's a very different program than the first two. It tends to be a little bit broader in its purpose. What I mean by that is it doesn't necessarily lead to one specific job like the professional piloting program or the aviation maintenance program. If you're in professional piloting, you're most likely going to become a pilot. And if you're in aviation maintenance, you're most likely going to go to work as aircraft mechanic. The aviation management program is a little different than that because the aviation industry is made up of a really wide variety of jobs and skill sets and professions. So for each of those jobs and skill sets and professions, there's going to have to be people who are serving in management positions as well. For people who go through the aviation management program, they may end up serving in a logistical role like crew scheduling or network planning, or they may serve in an operational role like flight dispatch, which can be a really good job. They can also serve in business roles like HR, accounting, marketing, any number of things really. Some pilots and mechanics actually go through this program too, or something similar to it, because there's pilot managers and mechanic managers out there as well. So this degree's purpose can be very broad, it can be very diverse, and it's going to include quite a bit of aviation specific education. You'll walk away with a basic understanding of various different fields in aviation. Like you'll get a bit of piloting, you'll get a bit of air traffic control, get a little bit of maintenance, airport operations, airline operations, system safety, security, and others as well. But you'll also get an additional set of classes with this degree in accounting, economics, and business administration, which will prepare you for the more administrative and the more managerial roles that you'll be stepping into. So for this degree program, oftentimes people will either start the program with a technical skill or certification in whatever field of aviation they want to go into, or if you're just out of high school and you start in the program, maybe you can pick up a technical certification or skill set along the way. And we often work with younger students just out of high school on doing that. More often than not, we pair the degree together with a dispatcher certificate so you can go into aircraft dispatching, which again, that's a job with a lot of opportunity, and it could be a very good job too. So that's something I can go into more later if people have questions, or one-on-one if anybody wants to get in touch with me after the presentation, which would be great, by the way. With that said, though, I'm going to move into our final degree program, which again is pretty different from the first three things that we've gone over, and that's air traffic control. And I saved this very, very unique program for last because it is so different from the other programs we've talked about so far, and because it's really cool. Air traffic controllers typically work for the FAA, which is the Federal Aviation Administration. And their job, if you really boil it down, is just to keep airplanes in congested areas from getting too close to each other. Airplanes don't need to be close to each other. That can cause safety hazards, and these are the people that work with the pilots to make sure that those things don't happen. And as you can imagine, it's a very important job. When most people think of air traffic controllers, they tend to think about the people working in the control towers at an airport. And it's true, those people are air traffic controllers, and their job is to manage the air traffic usually within 5 to 10 miles of an airport. There's also other types of air traffic controllers who manage larger areas. One of those is called TRACON, or Terminal Area Control. Those folks monitor the areas broadly around larger cities. And then there's also another third type of air traffic controller called en route controllers, which monitor aircraft as they travel from one destination to another. So terminal area and en route controllers work primarily off of radar screens, and they work together with tower controllers, but they're doing something a little bit different. All three jobs are very cool. They all pay quite well too. Air traffic control can be a very lucrative job, and for people who enjoy it, it can also be a really fun job. Now, I'll tell you, air traffic control is a sacrifice. Going down this career path is challenging and it's competitive, and you're probably going to have to move a couple of times earlier in your career. But again, if it's something that you want to do, I would highly recommend it. And I also highly recommend taking a look at our program, or any other college program that offers air traffic control. I think UAA's program in air traffic control is really stellar. It is quite good. But definitely do your research, and definitely consider going to a college. I'll tell you a little bit about why. With air traffic control especially, you want to start at a college program. Completing a 2-year degree with us will give you what's called advantaged hiring, to get your foot in the door with the FAA when you're first applying, which can be a big deal. And maybe even more importantly, our program is going to prepare you for what they teach at the FAA Academy. Now, when you get hired after you've graduated from college, you're going to go to the FAA Academy in Oklahoma City. Every new air traffic controller does. And the FAA Academy lasts for 4 months. Now, you'll be doing that as an employee, so they'll be paying you a pretty decent wage while you're doing it, and they'll put you up. But you've got to make it through the FAA Academy to move on into the actual job as a tower, terminal, or en route controller. And the FAA Academy really is tough. It has a pretty high washout rate. So you want to go to a program that's going to prepare you for it, so you'll be ready to go into that very rigorous training program that they put you in. It has the added advantage too of giving you a better chance of having a high class standing at the academy. Academy trainees are ranked according to their performance and abilities when it comes time to do your first assignment right out of the FAA Academy. Preference of assignments is awarded to those with higher class standing first. So if you're not number one in the class, it's definitely nothing to feel bad about. But the higher your class standing is, the more freedom you have to choose where you go after you get out of training. So there's some really interesting career opportunities here, both in air traffic control and the other fields of aviation that I've talked about. And here at the UAA Aviation School, we're here to help you reach those goals. And I really do think all of our programs have great things to offer. Hopefully we'll get a chance to talk more about those. And I'm just going to leave you with this thought before I hand things over to Elizabeth from Maine Maritime. Regardless of what field you go into, this is good advice. Secret of getting ahead is getting started. The secret of getting started is breaking your complex, overwhelming tasks into small, manageable tasks, and then starting on the first one. So I'm going to go ahead and pass things on to Elizabeth here in just a second. If anybody wants to write down my contact information, you're free to email me or call me anytime. And again, I think there will be time at the end of this to answer questions. So hopefully we can talk to each other here in just a few minutes. And with that, Elizabeth, you want to go ahead and take it away?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me go ahead and get my screen shared, and then I will start with my own introductions.
All right.
The hardest part. Can you see this so far?
Yeah.
I still see you.
And then, let's see. How do I make it nice? Hold on. There we go. Now do you see just the welcome slide?
Yes.
Perfect. Sometimes I put that in presenter view. So my name is Elizabeth Allaby. I'm an admissions counselor at Maine Maritime Academy, just like Marcus had mentioned, which was really nice. And he just told you a bunch of different opportunities that you can do up in the sky, and I'm going to tell you about some different transportation opportunities on the ocean. So as the name of my school, or not my school, but Maine Maritime Academy, gives away, we are a very ocean-oriented, maritime industry-oriented institution. So with that said, I'll go ahead and show you a couple of things. Not very many folks have heard of Maine Maritime Academy, so I'll start off giving you some background information, a little bit more about who we are as a college, and then I'll tell you about our specific marine transportation and licensing opportunities, as well as some of our different summer experiences, and hopefully by the end of it, you'll be so excited to apply, so I'll give you some good tips and tricks about what we're looking for in our applicants. So, and feel free, again, throw all your questions, if you have any, into the Q&A. It's this is a pretty neat opportunity that we can be meeting from all over the world. I'm in Maine, Marcus is in Alaska. I'm not sure where all the attendees are from, but we're from all over, so it's pretty cool. So just a little bit of history about Maine Maritime Academy. I didn't put this up there, but I figured I should. We are on the coast of Maine. We're about an hour south of Acadia National Park. Just to sort of orient you. We were founded in 1941 along with 6 of the other 7 maritime colleges in the United States. If you remember your US history, we were in the middle of World War II in 1941, and the US government and Navy realized we did not have enough skilled captains or engineers to work aboard our vessels. So that's why these other 6, including Maine Maritime Academy, maritime colleges were founded to fill that niche so we can get more skilled captains and navigators and engineers aboard our commercial vessels. So don't let the name Academy fool you. Our students, when they graduate, they go on to become commercial mariners. There are, of course, avenues if they want to go ahead and join the Navy or join the Coast Guard. We can talk about that, I'm sure, another time, but for the most part, our students are going out to work aboard commercial vessels. So we are a public co-educational college. We're small with about 1,000 students, which makes our student to faculty ratio really small, about 11 to 1. We have 3 different degrees, an associate's, a bachelor's, and a master's of science. I'll just talk about 2 of those, and 23 different degree programs, but since we're transportation focused today, I'm only going to talk about 3 of them for you. And within those different degree programs, we do have 7 different licensing opportunities. I'm going to speak about 4 with you. Through the U.S. Coast Guard. And as you can imagine, you can kind of see in the picture in the background, this is our waterfront. We are located right on the coast of Maine. So we have 60 plus training, research, and pleasure vessels that are basically at the disposal of students. So we want you aboard our vessels. We want you continuously enhancing your skills out on the ocean, getting used to all the different things that can happen out there so you can be the best mariner possible. And sort of all these different factors go down into that last bullet point, which is a very exciting bullet point. Over 90% of our graduates are employed within 90 days of graduation. And similar to what Marcus was saying with jobs up in the air, jobs on the ocean are extremely lucrative. I think most of our grads, especially if you have any of the Coast Guard licenses I'm about to tell you, easily start out in the 60 grand. Some of them with the unlimited license that I'm going to tell you about, depending on which industry they go into, can begin with a six-figure salary. Not very many people have these maritime licenses. Probably similar to being an aviation pilot. You know, not everybody in the world has that license. Most people have a driver's license. So it's sort of what sets you apart in the job world. So I'll tell you about our three different transportation programs, and I've sort of broken them down by degree. So we've got 2 bachelors of sciences I'll tell you about, and 1 associates of science. So the marine transportation operations is our big one. It's one of the degrees that we had way back in the 1940s, and we've just continuously built it out. And you can see that it is part of our regiment program. So for example, if you see the picture on the bottom left, you see some folks standing aboard our training ship in uniform, and that's where folks seem to think that we're a military academy, which we are not, unless you want to go and serve your country. Of course, that avenue exists, but that's not the expectation when you graduate. However, you're part of the regiment because that is sort of what holds our partnership with the Coast Guard together. Basically, kind of started this way. If you look on the other side, you see the license, the U.S. Coast Guard Third Mates Oceans Unlimited License. Sounds like a mouthful. If you started as a deckhand, you went down to a waterfront anywhere, and you just got a job, it would take you maybe 20 to 25 years to become a captain. However, if you go to a maritime academy like Maine Maritime, you can get this license in 4 years, and you are able to then become a captain much, much quicker. You're able to get that pay grade a whole lot faster, and part of that is we build all of those different skills into our curriculum, as well as the different sea times that our students need. So you can kind of see there's a student jumping off the State of Maine, our training ship, and that right-hand picture you can see our training ship, the State of Maine. It's a 500-foot-long vessel. There it is in New York Harbor, up on its summer cruise. So our students who then are pursuing these unlimited licenses will spend their summers, at least 2 of their 3 summers, aboard the State of Maine, and they're getting all of that sea time. So the transportation majors are spending 70 days aboard the ship. So with that said, then you're learning how to be part of a team. There's got to be a whole lot of good camaraderie and a lot of good teamwork and partnership to make that vessel, which is in essence a moving city, safe, and also meet whatever its goal is. So that's where the regimental piece comes in. So in essence, we are treating our students similarly to how they're treated at the Coast Guard Academy. They are in uniform. They have different expectations. For example, they have to meet for muster every morning, just like you would aboard a ship, to make sure nobody fell off or there isn't, an emergency down in the engine room. They have to keep their rooms proper, which means room inspections. Again, not to punish the students, but if you were aboard a vessel and there was a fire in the middle of the night, you better be able to find your boots. They better be exactly where you know that you put them, so that way you can help out everybody aboard ship, keep the vessel safe, and keep, your vessel on schedule so you can achieve whatever your business goals are. And then I just wanted to touch on the word unlimited. So this Third Mate's Unlimited license is the largest license you can get from the Coast Guard. And what this means is you can operate any size vessel. So our training vessel is 500 feet long. The largest vessels in the world are triple that. So if you've ever seen those enormous cruise ships, like huge vessels, also in any waters all over the world. So you're not limited to being within a certain distance from the US coastline. You can go down to the South Pacific. You could sail aboard a vessel in the China Sea. You could sail aboard a vessel going from Alaska to Japan, for example. And a lot of these opportunities exist. So it is this huge license with a lot of responsibility, which is the other side why the jobs out of college are paid pretty well. And then I sort of just listed some of the different careers that our students go into. But first, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the ladder when you first get on a vessel. So that license was called the Third Mate's Unlimited License. So the third mate is sort of the fourth in command aboard a vessel. And when you graduate with us, you would go get your first job as a third mate. And then you need a certain number of days out to sea in order to qualify for that second mate's license, then the chief mate, and then becoming a full-blown master, sailmaster, or a captain. And then you would go ahead, and as you're getting, working your way up that ladder, you might work, on a cargo container vessel, on a cable laying vessel. Somebody's got to lay all that cable underneath the sea to connect different islands or whatnot to electrical systems. You might work aboard an oil tanker or a chemical tanker, could be cruise ships. A harbor pilot is not exactly how it thinks. There are harbor pilots in every major port all over the world, and they are individuals who know that water like the back of their hand. In fact, they have to have the maps and the charts memorized. They're similar to air traffic control in terms of making sure all those vessels are moving in and out of the port safely and efficiently. So that's an option if you don't necessarily want to ship out. You could work in port authority, managing, what different cargo is coming in and out. I mentioned military sea lift command because a lot of our students are really interested in working for MSC. So that is a company that contracts out to the Department of Defense. So you are still a civilian, but your biggest employer is the Department of Defense. So you're going to be the container ship that's going to go out to the destroyer in the middle of the ocean and resupply. So sort of the sky's the limit on what size vessel, and don't think you have to work on the largest vessels. If your heart is on, for example, a tall ship, a schooner, a sailing vessel, this license doesn't keep you away from that. It just gives you basically all the options that there are. So I'll move along to our other bachelor's that we offer. It's called Vessel Operations and Technology. You'll notice this one does not require you to be part of the regiment, and that's because the licenses that you would get, you choose if you want the 500 or the 1600 ton. They are limited licenses. What that means is you can only go, with the 500, it is a limited near coastal license. You can only sail a vessel within 200 miles of a US shoreline. And with the 1600 near coastal, that's the same. The 1600 the 1600 tonnage license also offers an oceans option, similar to that unlimited where you could work aboard vessels all over the world. But because they are limited in terms of the size as well, so that's why you see that 500 and that 1600 tonnage, just means that they're slightly smaller vessels. Still huge, you would be really surprised. But you can't work on, the largest vessels you can possibly imagine. So you're limited both in some of the waters you can go work in and then the size of the type of vessel. And then I sort of wanted to touch on the meaning behind tonnage. So 500 and 1600 ton or tonnage is not how much a vessel weighs, but it's how much quantity the vessel has, like shipping quantity. So it's like an old term for how many tons of wheat a vessel could carry way back in like the 1600s when sailors were first doing trade. That's how they were measuring different sizes of vessels. So you could have a much longer vessel be a really small tonnage because it doesn't have a lot of carrying capacity, whereas a huge vessel, might have a ton of cargo shipping containers and a ton of tanker containers. So you would have a higher tonnage. That's a whole other rabbit hole, but just sort of to explain the different sizes of vessels that you can operate. So our students who get a bachelor's in vessel operations and technology, you'll notice that chain of command on a vessel is a lot smaller because the vessels tend to be smaller. So instead of being a third mate, then a second, then a chief, then a captain, pretty much it's you as a first or a second mate, depending on where you are with your sea time, and a captain. So there's 2 of you who are pretty much in charge instead of 4. So what a lot of our students will go on to work for are what we call work boats. So every vessel is a working vessel, but these would be things like fishing vessels. You know, if you go to Anchorage, to go give a shout out to Marcus, you will see a lot of fishing vessels, and a lot of those captains will have 500 or 1600 tonnage vessel licenses. Tug and barge, they're much smaller vessels, of course, but they are super powerful. Like those tug ships, though they're small, have these mega engines that allow these really small boats to push around these 500-foot, you know, cruise ships, for example. Freighters or supply vessels, if you're going out to supply larger Coast Guard vessels, for example, like 150 miles offshore, you might be a supply ship. Or even ferries, like the Staten Island ferry, that's a good example, at least if you're out in the East Coast. So if you can imagine some of these vessels, by no means they're small, they're just, you know, closer to shore than out in the middle of the ocean. So then the last program I wanted to touch on was our Associates of Science, which is called Small Vessel Operations. Still has a US Coast Guard license. It's just a 200-ton. And you notice it says near coastal. Again, this is one that would be limited within, you've got to be 200 miles within the coast of the United States. But these are also still huge vessels. Often this goes hand in hand with different endorsements you can get on your license. Maine Maritime actually offers 3, but I just listed 1 here today. The auxiliary sail endorsement. Often our students who pursue small vessel operations really want this 200-ton Coast Guard piece so they can go ahead and become captains of different tall ships. So for example, in this picture you see the Bowdoin, which is our schooner. She's almost 100 years old, originally built to be an Arctic research vessel, so her wooden hull is specially built so she can basically be frozen in ice for 2 or 3 years, which has actually happened. And in the last 20 years, I think we've taken her 3 or 4 times up to Greenland and back, and these are fully student-led summer programs. So yeah, Marcus is like, this sounds fantastic. Maybe I should come down from the air and be on the water. So then what students do who work, who then go on to graduate and work, they're gonna just basically be on smaller work boats. And again, they're small vessels, small crews. Usually it'll be 1 captain and 1 mate. Oftentimes there's only 1 captain because they're much smaller vessels. Sort of tall ships, schooners, fishing vessels, again, research vessels. So oftentimes, so for example, we have a research vessel that our ocean studies students take out. It's a 70-foot vessel, but you still need a captain to take the scientists out for the day wherever they're going to do their research. Tug and barge would fall under here, supply vessels. It all is based on that tonnage, right? So basically which degree you get is going to be entirely up to what kind of career do you want. Do you want to be on the biggest ships in the middle of the ocean making the most money? Then I would really recommend that bachelor's of science in that marine transportation operations. You don't need to be on the world's biggest ships. Maybe check out vessel operations and technology. And if you know for sure you want to stay closer to the coast, get that small vessel operations. All of these options, you can see the licenses again listed on the side, do come with these US Coast Guard licenses, and you can't get the degree without the license, which kind of makes sense because you're not just getting a bachelor's, you're getting these extra credentials that give you these unique skill sets to then go out and work aboard these moving cities, keep things safe, keep everybody aboard safe. So the last thing I wanted to touch on was the summer field experience. So as you can imagine, in order to get these US Coast Guard licenses, we have a lot of requirements we have to fulfill. The most important would be you need to have a certain number of days aboard a certain size vessel in order to qualify for the license. So for marine transportation operations, getting that unlimited license, you need 365 days at sea. And we build that into the curriculum because that would be ridiculous if we just taught you on land and we were like, okay, go get your sea time. The sea time is what takes people who just hit the ground as a deckhand. That's what takes people so long in order to get their license. So we build this into the curriculum for you. So if you take that marine transportation operations route, getting that unlimited license, you'll notice the summer after your freshman and junior year, you do a cruise aboard our training vessel, the State of Maine, that 500-foot vessel you saw in the first picture. And basically it's a student-run vessel. Of course, we've got staff and captains and faculty and everything you can imagine on board, but you guys are running the show. You're making the decisions. We tend to go from Maine across the Atlantic, and we go to different European ports, so that way you can get an experience in foreign ports. And also, who doesn't want to go to Europe for the summer and sail aboard this mega vessel? But often we will go up the coast to the Canadian Maritime Islands and then all the way back down to the Caribbean. That way you can still get some foreign ports. So no matter where it goes, the stories students tell are pretty fantastic. And then that cadet shipping after the sophomore year, you'll notice it's a 90-day experience. You're not aboard Maine Maritime's vessel, but you have then gone out into the industry. You have found a commercial vessel to go ship on. So I have heard 3 roommates, actually, all marine transportation operations, had completely different experiences for their cadet shipping. And I will say this before I get ahead of myself. Maine Maritime Academy connects you with these different companies. So we don't just say go off and do this thing, but we have between 70 and like 80 employers who come to our career fair who want our students. They want you for that cadet shipping summer experience. So they can kind of give you the skills so that way they can offer you a job when you graduate. So these 3 roommates, one did I think it was a chemical tanker that went from Valdez, Alaska down to Long Beach, California. The other roommate went from Maine down to the Gulf of Mexico and was an oil tanker. And then the 3rd roommate was on a cargo ship in, I think it's the Sea of Japan. So I mean, they went all over. And it was the same summer, they're in the same major, literally room in the same house, but like their stories were pretty fantastic. If you bounce down to vessel operations and technology and small vessel operations, you'll notice sort of the word changes. Instead of a cadet shipping opportunity, it's a co-op. But the experience is similar, in which you're going to go and work aboard a vessel of a certain size for 60 to 90 days. And what's really nice about that is you're getting on-the-job experience, you're taking everything that you've just learned in class, and you're putting it to good work, you're putting it to use along industry professionals. So you're like, oh, these things that I'm learning really are useful in these different situations. Or, oh, this is, a better way to communicate if you're in a sticky situation, things like that, right? That you can't replicate in class. So for vessel operations and technology, you would do, after 3 of your summers, 3 of these co-op field experiences. We hope they're closer to the 90 days, because the more sea time you have, the greater the likelihood it is that you move up to that first mate, for example. And then we would, after your junior year, require that you do 2 weeks aboard the Bowdoin, that tall ship that I had just showed you. And then the small vessel operations is 1 co-op field experience. Since it's an Associates of Science, it's only 2 years, so you only got the 1 summer. But again, we hope that it's 60 to 90 days, so you can get all the sea time that you need. And then I believe they also do 2 weeks aboard the Bowdoin, especially if you're getting that auxiliary sail endorsement from the Coast Guard. Just one more kind of short plug for Maine Maritime Academy. These are all of our different rankings from 2020 and 2021. So we were, and we're very proud of this, ranked the best college for veterans, although we are not a military school, which I think is interesting. We are number 5 in regional colleges in the north, though I guess we are the northeast. 11 best value schools, and a lot of that is because our graduates have jobs when they graduate. Like they just do, which is fantastic. After they've gotten all that experience out in the industry, it would be surprising if they weren't snapped up. So. And sort of the last piece I wanted to say, if you happen to be in high school or if you're a transfer, our requirements are a little bit different, but here are our application requirements. So we're on Common App, which is really nice. You can just have 1 application, send it out to a bunch of different schools all at once. We will require your official high school transcript, your list of your senior year courses to make sure that your math and science are nice and strong, and at least 1 letter of evaluation. We do recommend submitting a resume. If you have extra letters of evaluation, feel free. And this year, this is new, we are test optional. The SAT and the ACT are really turning out to be a mess to schedule and to take. So we want to take that pressure off of you because we understand this pandemic is making your inability to take the test not your fault. And if you are serious or interested in Maine Maritime Academy, for sure get all these pieces in by November 30th so you can qualify for some of our scholarships. If you apply beyond November 30th, usually we've given away our money. So kind of if you're serious about us, apply early and we're serious about you. And this is my last thing. If you guys have any questions, feel free to email us. Just remember admissions@mma.edu. No question is too small or too big. We will find the right answers for you. So I tried to like rush it at the end so we still had some time for questions. So if you've got questions about aviation or about the maritime industry, now is a fantastic time. Both Marcus and I are still on. And I will stop screen sharing. And if not, then we'll probably ask each other how we can transfer to the other university.
All right, that was so interesting. That sounds really cool.
Likewise, I was like, wow, going up in the sky.
What program do most people do? Is it more common for people to do associates or bachelors?
Certainly the bachelor's, that marine transportation operations has been the biggest, most popular program up until the last 5 years. We are getting more and more and more applicants in the vessel operations and technology. People maybe are realizing for their career they're not so interested in going anywhere on any vessel, but they want to stay a little bit closer.
Okay, and then they can do the, what did you call it, a harbor master?
Harbor pilot.
Harbor pilot, that's right.
Yep. So if you want to do the harbor pilot, then you're going to need the big license. But I mean, these people have like the entire area memorized. They know where every little rock is.
Well, that was super interesting. I learned a lot that I can take back to my students. So thank you both so much.
Likewise. I want to do the air traffic controller.
Yeah. Well, here, I'm just going to, here really quickly, I'm going to just share my screen one more time. And okay, so just for everybody who joined today, thank you so much. When you close this window, there's going to be a link to a very quick 4-question survey. So we'd appreciate any feedback that you can provide. And then again, you know, this was just one of the many sessions being hosted. So just be sure to sign up for additional sessions at college2careerfairsconnect.org. And then in about a week, you'll be able to find the session's recording as well as all other session recordings at college2careerfairsconnect.org. Okay. Okay. Thank you to the presenters and thank you to all the participants today. Okay. Bye.